Cheers, everybody. Hello, hello. Got my holiday cup from Wawa. They didn't have the hand protectors today. I had to double up my cup. See? Two cups. I hope that's all right. So, if you have nothing to do this weekend, how about the Parks Casino in Shippensburg, central Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's newest casino, Parks Casino Shippensburg. Here's why. Not only for state-of-the-art, gambling, slot machines, blackjack, roulette, all that fun stuff, and good grub, but they have free entertainment. Every Friday night is comedy night. Tonight, 8 p.m., free comedy show with headliner Chris Kosha. Go see Chris Kosha tonight. Have some laughs. Every Saturday, they've got live music. Tomorrow, Joe Cooney and friends take the stage. Plus, you can bet sports on the Bet Parks kiosks in the side pocket. Catch all the football action every weekend starting at noon. Enjoy the side pocket stadium menu. Did you see what San Diego's team did last night with that field goal? That was really awesome, wasn't it? I think like the first time in 50 years, if you know what I'm talking about. Parks Casino Shippensburg, close to Western Maryland, Northern Virginia, towns like Hagerstown, Maryland, Winchester, Virginia, Chambersburg, PA, Martinsburg, West Virginia. You're all close. You can get lucky in no time at Pennsylvania's newest casino. Parks Casino is also smoke-free. Less than an hour from Harrisburg, the state capital, 500 state-of-the-art slot machines, 48 live dealer electronic table games featuring blackjack, roulette, and more. A great happy hour at 4 p.m. It's 4 o'clock somewhere, right? Get in on all that action, the all-new Parks Casino off Interstate 81. Visit parkscasino.com. Got to be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. So there's a new app coming out that's going to make it easier for you to discern the politics of a particular neighborhood in case you're considering moving there. And this is in line with Realtor.com recently saying that a quarter of Americans think it's highly influencing their decision when they know the politics of a particular area. So this was the impetus for me, the combination of the new app and the study from Realtor.com of a couple of months ago. This was the impetus for me to say, do you consider the politics of an area before you make a housing decision? Or more specifically, the way that I worded it yesterday was, when choosing a place to live, would you consider a community's political leanings as seriously as you do taxes, safety, and school quality? 55.21% of more than 30,000 said yes. That is a very anti-mingling position, isn't it? Because those 55.21% of 30,290 are saying, I don't think they're saying, I'm a red state person, I want to live among blue state people. I think they're saying, I want to live among the like-minded. Now, I get it. Dobbs overturning Roe. Some say, I want to make sure that I'm in concert with, whatever the abortion law might be of a particular state where it's left to the states. But still, I think it's troublesome. And it's in furtherance of this whole self-sorting subject that I have talked about. And yesterday, David Wasserman from the Cook Political Report with Amy Walter was my guest. David really is the guy with all of the data. I've said to you before that we have 3,000 or so counties in the United States. They have fixed boundary lines. And that if you go back to 1980, 391, only 391 of the roughly 3,000 were won by 20 or more percentage points. Only 391 of roughly 3,000 were landslide counties. Fast forward to the 2020 election, that number is like 1,726 or thereabouts. That's not gerrymandering, because those boundary lines are fixed. And yesterday, David Wasserman told us that in the 2024 election, so Harris v. Trump, 80.2% of American counties voted for one candidate or the other by more than 20 points. It's all part of this trend where we are not mingling, we are associating with and living among the like-minded. That's yesterday's poll question. Today, on this Friday before Christmas, what best explains the timing of recent reports on President Biden's diminished capacity? And what am I referring to? I'm referring to the print edition of the New York Times yesterday, page one above the fold, Peter Baker and Zolan Kanu Young's writing under the headline, Biden, wearied and stinging, prepares to exit. And the story opens with an anecdote about President Biden. And then it says, it's hard to imagine that he seriously thought he could do the world's most stressful job for another 4 years. And then it's the Times talking about, well, the fact that he's 82 and that he shows his age. And now you've got the Wall Street Journal in a 5-person byline story. Annie Linsky on today's program in the lead position. How the White House functioned with a diminished Biden in charge. And same type of analysis as the New York Times, except even more descriptive. A 4-person byline and 50 people that they interviewed. Here's one paragraph from the story in the Journal. Presidents always have gatekeepers, but in Biden's case, the walls around him were higher and the controls greater, according to Democratic lawmakers, donors, and aides who worked for Biden and other administrations. There were limits over who Biden spoke with, limits on what they said to him, and limits around the sources of information he consumed. This piece is getting so much buzz that Mediaite is giving it the treatment that they give political books, meaning they say, like, okay, here are the 5 things that you need to know from the Wall Street Journal reporting. So here are their 5 bombshells in summary form. 1, there were concerns about Biden and his mental acuity from the first few months on the job. 2, that Democratic leaders saw a leadership vacuum. 3, that meetings, including with cabinet members, were infrequent and tightly scripted. 4, that he struggled through the prep for Robert Hur. Do you remember Robert Hur? Do you remember when Robert Hur said that he couldn't prosecute a case against Joe Biden because of Biden's diminished mental acuity? That he was, I forget the wording, but it was something like he's an affable old guy, but he's forgetful, and I couldn't prosecute a case against him as a result. And I talked about that extensively, and I said we ought to see the transcript, and then we did. And I said we ought to see the video if there were one. Apparently there wasn't. And I remember many listeners said to me, oh, get off his back already. Well, now we're learning the backstory to the preparation for the Robert Hur interviews. Also, number 5, that donors were shocked by the performance of the president in their interactions with him. So the question is this new information or was there a cover-up? Why is this now coming to light? I have to say, relative to the Wall Street Journal and Annie Linsky, my guest, back in June, before the debate, here's the headline: Behind closed doors, Biden shows signs of slipping. And I remember when this story was written, people were upset. Like, how could they write that? Now more is coming to light, and now people are saying, how could they not have written stories like this? I noticed that the number one comment, there are a lot of comments on this Wall Street Journal story, but the number one comment is from someone identified as Jeffrey Lawrence, who says, why wasn't this story written a year ago? Secondly, none of this is surprising, and it's almost certainly worse than portrayed. And the 2 questions that I'm left with, having read the Wall Street Journal piece and the Times piece, the First Lady and the Vice President, because they're really not factors in this story. But I think it's a legitimate question to ask: what did Kamala Harris know, and when did she know it? What did she witness? If they've got 50 people on the record, including Joe Manchin, who are sharing, I say on the record, many of them are anonymous, but 50 people, 50 sources. But if they've got any number of people who are being identified, what about the Vice President? And what about the First Lady? What's the First Lady's role in all this? It's sad. And there's not, from my perspective, I told you the Mediaite bombshells. From my perspective, there's no one bombshell. There's no one story that I'm sharing with you and saying, wait until you hear this. Collectively, they tell a story of an 82-year-old, and age is a relative thing, showing his age. Frankly, being exactly what you'd expect of an 82-year-old. And God willing, we're going to see Donald Trump in office at age 82. I say God willing because what is he, 79? So we're going to see what 82 looks like on him. I wish for Biden and I wish for Trump, long lives and good health. But it's a really interesting question, isn't it? Make sure you're voting at Smerconish.com today on the poll question of the day. What best explains the timing of recent reports on President Biden's diminished capacity? Is it new information is coming to light or that there's been a cover up all along? One thing we know for sure is that the White House has very aggressively pushed back on any reporting pertaining to Biden's age. I remember that from the first time that the Journal addressed this subject back in June. And while I'm giving the Journal credit for being willing to write about it previously, I think it's fair to say, well, what about the first and second and third year of the Biden administrations? Where were they then? Great poll question. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, go vote at Smerconish.com on the Friday poll question on this, the Friday before Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody. I got a notification this morning that said that my copy of Smercomics, literally the first purchased, because it was me doing a test when we first made the link hot, that book is going to be delivered to me today. So if you're waiting for your book and you haven't received it, we're all in the same company. We're all in the same boat, as they say. And people who are getting them are loving them. Please tag me in social media with your unboxing, your videos, and your still image of where you're putting it on the coffee table or under the tree. Thank you. I'll see you soon on radio.